What do you think? Being married, do you push guys to get married?
No, I don't. I tell people that I want you to understand what marriage entails and how to be successfully married if you decide that this is what you want to do, right? I think
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
it is necessary if you want to do certain things. So, for example, I know that kids raised in two parent households are much more successful than kids that aren't, right? And so, if you want kids, I'm gonna suggest that, hey, before you ever consider that, if you want to put your kids in the best position possible, first you need to protect yourself. You need to understand what it is you should get yourself into. And the nature of a woman is no different just because you want to have kids, right? And so I'm gonna give them the insight. I always tell guys that marriage is a business first. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean that it doesn't have love or you shouldn't love the person or grow to love the person as you get into it. But I think that people need to be happy with themselves
Hmm.
before you get into a relationship and become interdependent on somebody else, because all you're doing is trauma bonding. Like the fact that bodies still matter, how many bodies, how many people you slept with, that still matters. The nature of what women want, provision and protection versus what men want, it still matters. You need to understand what you're getting yourself into. And if you're going into it with your eyes wide shut, you're going to be open for a rude awakening, because it's a lot of people that go into it and they get their ass handed to them in a marriage. You know what I'm saying? And so
Hmm.
I've never known divorce in my family. So if you decide that you want to get married, I'm gonna give you the game on how you can be successfully married. But I absolutely would never just push people to just get married for the sake of getting married or for the sake of, because you're gonna do more damage than you're gonna
Hmm.
do good to yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'd rather you figure it out while you're not married than figure it out when you get married and then you find yourself in a bad situation that you don't want to be in for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
So no, I don't push people to get married. I just tell them what it is that they need to do in order to be successfully married. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I'm very much, when I first got into Red Pill, I didn't understand why people were so anti-marriage.
Hmm.
Um, because, I grew up in a two-parent household and my parents are still married, so I was like, this seems
Hmm.
like a good idea. Most people I know are married. Um, However, the more I learned about the laws, I was like, God damn, if I was a guy, I would not want to get married.
Yeah, it is a
And that's what I was trying to communicate to Hafeez, but he was just like, so you think that we should just give up? And I'm like, well, that's not what I said, but
yeah. I mean, he wouldn't even acknowledge. Oh, that's the part. One of the parts I seen. He wouldn't even acknowledge because he kept asking you. That's the part that I was saying. He kept grilling you on. He kept asking. So you saying that? What did he say? He said, so you saying that it wasn't right before? It wasn't right before, and then you answered, and you was like, he was asking you about the marriage laws or something like that, and he kept pressing and pressing you and kept saying, so you saying that marriage wasn't right before? It wasn't right before, something like that. And I was like, why do he
well,
keep trying to emphasize that?
yeah, because I kept saying it was more fair. That's what I kept saying. And I didn't want to,
Yeah, that's what it is.
and the other thing that made me mad is he said, I use the definition. I felt like I was being gaslit because he said, I use the definition of of a praxeology. And he was like, what's the definition? And I didn't say that. I watched the
Yeah,
interview
you
back. I
said,
said,
well,
they
most
said,
people can't. No, he asked you, he said something, he said another thing. He said, people say statistics a lot.
uh
He
huh.
said, people say statistics a lot. And he was like, well, where did you get that from? But it doesn't mean that it isn't right, right? It
Well,
doesn't mean that the statistics aren't accurate. And he was saying that anybody can say a statistic, but then I can't substantiate where you got it from or whatever, and all of that. And he was like, well, most people can't just cite their source when they're having a conversation. But if you want to
mhm.
look up, she was like, you said you can Google it. You can go and look it up, or you won't.
That's what I was saying. I was willing to do it right then because I knew I was like I have looked up that stat before. Like I know that one. Like there are some where you kind of it's like rough, but I'm like I could cite that one word for word. Like I have read that one, but I couldn't tell you the exact source off the top of my head. Like sorry. And even in the interview, I said we can look it up now, and he didn't want me to do it. So
No,
it's
he
like what?
didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't, but I didn't understand because I thought I would think that it was gonna be a conversation. Like it was just gonna be a cool dialogue. Y'all was gonna kick it, have fun, laugh, talk about, different philosophies, women, marriage, whatever, so on and so forth. But it turned into a heated debate. He was it looked like he was going at you harder than he went at Greg Adams. Mm-hmm.
I think I will say I think think sometimes because I'm agreeable and I'm a girl, like people kind of talk to me a different way that I know if there was a guy in the room or like if there was a guy at the discussion, like I don't feel like it would have been the same thing um personally.
Mm.
Um and I think it's just like it's kind of like when you have someone that's more agreeable. I don't necessarily think it's just cuz like I'm a girl, like it's just cuz I'm agreeable, you
Yeah.
know? And people talk to you a certain way than if there's someone that's disagreeable in the room.
Last week with Lapeef, um, the girl, I forgot her name, B. Taylor, she was
Mhm.
surprised that you don't necessarily pick the guests for your show.
Mhm.
She was very, very surprised. A lot of people, I think that was the first time that they learned that.
Yeah, I did early on. So in like the first maybe 3 months of my show, I did the recruiting.
Hmm.
But God, I'm telling that is the hardest part. You outsource that as soon as you can because that is hell. I promise to God, you cannot be that picky with recruiting. It is hell. That is hell on earth. And it's funny she was coming at me about that because I was just thinking like we're kind of in between recruiters and I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do when I get back.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, oh God, I really hope to God I don't have to recruit again. And yeah, no, I don't know who's coming. It's basically like first we used a guy, his name's Eddie,
Hmm.
and he would recruit people from Instagram. And then we were trying to get more guests that disagreed, so I tried an agency,
Hmm.
but they've kind of been dropping the like we had to cancel a show because no one showed up the other day. So yeah, I don't even know how we're gonna recruit going
Wait. You
forward.
talking about in Dallas?
No, in London.
Oh, okay. Okay. Why did you go to London in the first place? Like, what made you just? Because I remember, listen, I've been following your journey, and I remember we DM'd early on and all of this other type of stuff.
Mm.
Um, I remember when you first picked up and moved, and you was doing the videos, and you was doing the Instagram videos about you leaving and all of this other type of stuff, or your whole, what made you pick up and go there?
I was recruited to play volleyball.
Ah, I
Yeah,
did
I
not
still
know
play.
that.
Yeah, a lot
Do
of
you
people don't
really?
know it. Yeah, I still play. A lot of people don't know. I'm a
You're
woman of
gonna have
many
to give it
talents.
up pretty soon.
Um, yeah, I kind of did. So London is semi-pro. And so a lot of people go semi-pro for a year and then go pro. And I was offered to go pro this year and I turned it down. And so now it's kind of like I told my coaches I'll kind of come when I can. And so
You gotta give it up. You're too big now. You're too visible.
yeah, no, I know. This
There's
is
no
probably my
way that you're
last
gonna be able to
year.
still do that.